is Citizen Weekend with Olive Barrows.
Am I still in order by wishing you a happy Valentine's Day? You're right on time for Citizen Weekend. As Lulu and Rashid put it, leo ni siku ya wapendanao. I'm glad you could join us. These are the news highlights.
Na kwa mwaka 20 hatukuingia serikali. Lakini mara hii baba alitubariki. Akasema ikifika 2027 ODM haikui chama cha opposition tena.
We know we talk at the right time. We don't talk all the time. We talk at the right time. And a good leader is the one who knows when to talk.
Preamble for the deputy presidency. DP Kindiki says he is not intimidated as ODM sustains push for the number 2 slot.
Chakula nimepata leo kilo 5 maharagwe na mchele. Hasa kuangalia katika familia yangu. Hiyo nimepata kidogo, nashukuru, lakini kushukuru kwangu hiyo haitoshi kwetu kwa sababu family ukame umezidi sana.
Respite for the hungry in Malindi, but only just. Relief food recipients plead with government to increase allocations.
Huyu kijana alikuwa mgonjwa, akaenda akapatikana organs imeisha kwa sababu ya pombe.
Burying the young with increasing frequency. Residents of Poror village in Baringo decry devastating effects of illicit liquor in their midst.
The prices are quite high. Like this one, this is the cheapest. Yeah, prices are ranging from 1,000 going forward. But me as a Gen Z, as an hustler, I can't afford that much.
Celebrating the Day of Love. Kenyans mark Valentine's Day amidst strenuous times.
Let me wish our sign language interpreter Yula Nzale happy Valentine's Day. We start with politics, and Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki says he is not fazed by the Orange Democratic Movement's sudden appetite for the seat he occupies. The Deputy President said he was a master of politics and would not engage carelessly. He spoke in Kirinyaga, where Mount Kenya leaders loyal to the broad-based government maintained that his seat was not up for grabs. Willie Lusige kicks us off on Citizen Weekend.
Speaking after an impromptu inspection of Maragwa Ishagaki Gamburi Road that had stalled in 2020, the deputy president, who was accompanied by local leaders loyal to the broad-based government, said he was not shaken by recent development that have seen ODM party leader Dr. Oburu Odinga say they are gunning for his seat in power negotiations with UDA.
Usibabaishwe na mambo kidogo ambao mnasikia hapa na pale. Hii mambo mengine yote ya siasa, sisi ndio mafundi wa siasa, my friend. Sione vile tuko, sisi ndio mafundi wa siasa. Hatuongeagi sana. We know we talk at the right time.
However, the local leaders who had accompanied him were not as gracious, saying the country's number 2 political position was not for the taking during power talks.
Situka position inababili. Tunataka hiyo ichukuliwe. Simesikia ODM wamekuja sana. Si ODM wamekuja sana.
The leaders insisted that both the presidency and deputy presidency already have substantive holders and are not subject to political bargaining. In Kericho County, Kenya Kwanza leaders led by Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya accused the opposition of undermining government development efforts.
We want to tell the proponents of one term that a nation cannot be driven by empty rhetorics.
Mambo ya fujo, mambo ya furugu, ambaye ndio watu ambao hawana sera, hawana mwelekeo, watajaribu kutumia nguvu kwa sababu imefika wakati wa siasa, hawana nafasi.
In Isiolo County, during the campaigns for the Isiolo South by-election, leaders allied to the ruling coalition urged the opposition to give the government space to deliver on its agenda.
Hiyo ni 2 terms, 2 terms.
They criticized the opposition figures, accusing them of politicizing even sensitive issues such as drought.
Mimi nataka kukumbusha watu ya upinzani, mambo ya mvua ama drought inaamuliwa na Mungu. Nyinyi ambaye mnakula mnashiba, msifanyie siasa mambo ya drought katika sehemu ya northern part of the country. Yao ni kuongea, hawana agenda, hawana mpango, hawana sera, hawana mahali ya kwenda, ni maadui ya development katika nchi yetu ya Kenya.
The leaders also took aim at former President Uhuru Kenyatta, urging him to emulate other retired heads of state and refrain from active political engagement.
Please, Uhuru Kenyatta, behave like other retired presidents. Uhuru Kenyatta achane na William Ruto afanye kazi.
Wewe Uhuru Kenyatta wachana na watu wa Isiolo, wachague yule mbunge ambaye wanataka. Wachana na William Ruto afanyie watu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya kazi, kwa sababu ile kazi William Ruto anafanya sasa hivi ni ile kazi ambaye wewe ilikushinda.
Willy Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has issued a stern warning to a section of Kitui County Assembly leaders allied to the United Democratic Alliance, UDA, accusing them of undermining the will and interests of the people. The move is seen by Kalonzo and as Kalonzo cracking the whip, on dissenting voices in his political backyard. Meanwhile, the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, rallied the Ma community to back the united opposition, saying unity is key to unlocking their development agenda. With that report is Melita Oletenges.
The united opposition is ramping up its grassroots campaign. Gachagua toured Enesampulai in Narok County, urging the Ma community to support the opposition and his presidential ambition. He said the Ma have been sidelined by President William Ruto's administration.
Hii ndio chama yenu ya kutafuta serikali. Na mimi nataka mkuwe katika meza ya kitaifa. Tukitafuta serikali mkuwe ndani. Mimi nauliza kwa heshima, Wama wote kutoka Samburu, kutoka Laikipia North, kutoka Laisamis, kutoka pale kwa JMC pale Baringo South.
Gachagua accused Narok leaders allied to President Ruto of prioritizing politics over the region's development needs. He pledged to improve infrastructure and livestock sector.
Na vile nimeahidi, kazi ya hii barabara ndio itakuwa kazi ya kwanza. Na hapa Narok nikipata nafasi ya uongozi, nitatilia maanani sana mambo ya boarding schools ya watoto, hasa wale wa kike. Ndio hao watoto wetu, the girl child, aweze kupata nafasi ya kusoma.
He spoke during the homecoming of DCP Deputy Secretary General Martin Ole Kamwaro. In Kitui County, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka attended the renaming of Chuso Girls to Mama Pauline Kalonzo Girls School. He warned local leaders allied to government that their actions betray the region's interests.
You are either with us or against us. Times wakati umeenda, and I'm watching all of you. Mutakuwa swept. Hakuna mtu ata survive if you are not on our side. Read the mood of the people.
Kalonzo also expressed confidence that Kenyans in the diaspora will back the united opposition. He accused President Ruto's government of overtaxing citizens and stalling key development projects in Cumberland.
Siasa za chuki, kutoza ushuru usioaminika. Yeyote ambaye analipa mshahara hapa, analipa Ruto 50% kwa ushuru wake. Na kuleta maproject hayaeleweki. So ninasema ni haki. Hata hii barabara amechelewesha hii. Hata ila anasema ataenda kuweka muunani, wekee lami aweke haraka.
Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
Orange Democratic Movement leaders insist that the deputy president's seat is a key part of negotiations with UDA for a 2027 coalition. A group of ODM leaders on Saturday advanced the push by saying that the position should be reserved for a woman from ODM. Speaking in Kwale and Mombasa counties, the leaders took a swipe at the party's Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna, labeling him a traitor and accusing him of schemes aimed at weakening the Orange Party. Francis Mtalaki reports.
The Orange Party toured Likoni, Lungalunga and Ukunda in Mombasa and Kwale counties as they continue their Linda Ground campaign in the Coast region. Led by party chairperson Gladys Wanga and deputy party leader Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir, the leaders insist that the Orange Party is the most popular and enjoys national support across the country, saying they will demand the deputy president's slot in the pre-election talks and that it must be a woman from the party if President William Ruto hopes to secure a second term in office.
And we are telling you, His Excellency, if you want your government to succeed, if you want your second term, look at the women. Women are 28 million voters. As we go for negotiation, me as a woman with my fellow 28 women, we are saying Deputy President must, shall, will, inshallah, be a woman from ODM.
Na wale wanaona ODM lazima tubaki kwa mapambano. Sisi tupambane, wengine wakule. Sisi tupambane, wengine waingie serikali. Tuendelee kupambana ama tutafute njia ya kuingia kwa serikali.
Tumtume party leader wetu Oburu Oginga katika mazungumzo na watu ambao wamekomaa akili kama hawa. Our chair, Gladys Wanga.
The leaders also slammed the party Secretary General Edwin Sifuna over what they termed as continuous opposition to the party position, claiming that Sifuna is working with the opposition to weaken ODM.
Akasema watakao saliti chama cha baba, mimi muniachie nitamenyana nao. Akamweka jamaa mwingine, leo hii anakula nguruwe, kesho anakula kuku, kesho kutwa anakula nyasi, amepotea, amekuwa fisi. Kaine meza, hata mimi naona nimetosha kutetea maswala ambayo inamtetea mwananchi wa chini.
Sisi tumesimama nyuma ya Daktari Oburu Oginga Odinga. Kwa hivyo sisi tumheshimu ule kaka wa baba, maana huyo ndiye alikuwa kakake, na sisi tunataka kuwaomba wale wengine, si mheshimu mzee, si ana hekima, si atatulinda.
Hii mambo ya kila siku ya kwa sisi tuwe katika opposition haya yatamalizika. Yani wewe kila siku sisi hiki chama chetu cha ODM tuwe katika upinzani.
The leaders defended ODM party leader Oburu Oginga's position of holding pre-election talks with President William Ruto's UDA, saying their focus is on building a formidable alliance ahead of 2027 rather than engaging in internal wrangles that continue to threaten the party's unity. Francis Mtalaki, Citizen TV.
Moses Muthama, the son of former Senator Johnston Muthama and the current Machakos Senator Agnes Kavindu, has been laid to rest at their home in Tala, Machakos County. At the burial that was attended by leaders from across the political divide, Moses was eulogized by his family as a friend and as a generous individual who had firm beliefs in family values. Apart from running various business enterprises, Moses served as a deputy director in the county government of Machakos until his demise. Moses Muthama died on the 4th of February.
My brother was full of laughter to an extent that he would forget that he had annoyed you last night and call you in the morning laughing. I would ask him, why are you calling me? And he would laugh and say, because you're my big sister. And then both of us would laugh uncontrollably.
My heart is very heavy. Moyo wangu ni mzito sana sana. Kwa sababu Moses alikuwa na mipango mikubwa na alikuwa amenieleza mambo yote ambao alikuwa amepanga kuyatenda.
I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Today feels like that valley, but this verse also speaks of comfort, of not walking alone. We stand here together as a family, as a community. Thank you for the part that lives in me. Rest in peace.
How many times
He encountered
President William Ruto has billed the African Continental Free Trade Area as decisive in repositioning Africa if implemented. The president, who spoke when he chaired the inaugural committee meeting of heads of state and government on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area in Addis Ababa, further advocated for measures to buffer the continent from shocks caused by global trade tariffs. With that report is Ayub Abdikadir.
The president's advocacy for a move from negotiation to implementation to benefit the continent's 1.4 billion people comes in the midst of shifting trade policies and ties. The head of state stressing on the combination of a rapidly growing population, technological advancement and ever-expanding regional trade blocs as vantage points for Africa.
Africa's private sector already accounts for the majority of production, investment, credit uptake and employment across our economies. Its full participation is therefore indispensable to the success of this agreement.
Touting the continent's private sector, President William Ruto called for fostering of relations to strengthen Africa's vast market as competitive and resilient trading bloc, calling for special attention to micro, small and medium enterprises, which he added anchors the African market in the absorption of jobs and helping against global shocks.
As chair of this subcommittee, I assure you of my full commitment to working closely with fellow heads of state and government and the Secretariat, including the regional communities and the private sector, to translate this agreement into real economic opportunities for our citizens.
The president saying the continent's potential requires urgency in increasing intra-African trade, which he added bears all the likelihood of giving Africa an edge over its peers as the next frontier for global commerce.
Many of these enterprises are ready to expand beyond national borders and take advantage of continental market access. In reference to Kenya again, close to 80% of all Kenyans employed are employed in the micro, small and medium enterprise sector.
And while President William Ruto's call for an African market forms part of Agenda 2063, his address during the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union comes against the backdrop of trade tensions and changing geopolitics, with calls for a well-governed Africa mounting. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
The picturesque hills of Eldama Ravine are known for their serenity, but in Poror village, that peace has been replaced by the rhythmic sound of shovels hitting the earth. A deadly wave of illicit alcohol is sweeping through this community, leaving a trail of broken families and fresh graves. Tonight, we look at a village under siege, not by an invading army, but by a toxic substance the locals say is protected by the very people meant to stop it. Brenda Wanga reports.
Poror village in Eldama Ravine, and the family prepares to lay to rest a young man, one of many whose deaths have been attributed to a crisis that is unfolding here, alcoholism. In less than a month, 3 families have held such burials. In 3 months, 10 lives have been snuffed out. The culprit, a potent, unregulated alcohol that residents say is more poison than drink. The symptoms are hauntingly similar. Young men, once vibrant, turn a sickly yellow, a sign of jaundice and liver failure before they collapse and die.
Nikapata mtoto ameturn rangi kuwa yellow. Mpaka hata sikutambua yeye. Na ni juu ya pombe. Na inafanya mtoto achukue kila kitu yenye anaona nyumbani ili auze ndio apate hiyo pombe kukunywa. Na hiyo pombe ni sumu kwa sababu ya kwanza mtu hakuli. Hafikiri kazi. Anaogopa hata kuoga. Anaogopa hata kuoa. akili ni kwa pombe tu, na unapata hawa watoto wanaenda hata hawaingii kwa boma.
Huyu kijana alikuwa mgonjwa, akaenda akapatikana organs imeisha, ni kwa sababu ya pombe. Pombe imeathiri watoto wetu, tumeziga wengi. Hata juzi tukasika ndugu ya baba ya nyumba ng'ambo hiyo ingine. Kuna neighbor kijana yake aliaga, amezikwa kwa sababu ya hiyo pombe, na hata watoto wengi sana.
For the families left behind, the pain is compounded by the ease with which their sons access the killer brew.
Na inaletwa hiyo ndio imesambazwa, hata wanachukuanga ni kama hii pombe inakuanga inauzwa kwa barabara kama take away. Wewe unakutana na pombe, wewe sijua mwenye anauza anaendanga na boda.
But it just isn't the uneducated or the unemployed caught in the trap. Mark Chumba was once a respected teacher, a molder of dreams. Today, his health shattered by decades of addiction.
Pesa sio shida. Naweza enda hata kuchukua kwa emergency loan ya 30,000. Tunakunywa na marafiki. Tunaanza na yangu, tunakunywa. Tunarudia ule rafiki yangu. Tunakunywa. Alafu pesa ikiisha, unaenda kuomba off. Unakaa kwa sababu una pesa.
As the death toll rises, the finger of blame is pointing directly at the local police. Residents claim the sellers of these illicit second-generation liquors operate with impunity, allegedly protected by those in uniform.
Hebu mchunguze kama hii pombe yenye inaletwa hapa inapelekwa kwingine ama kuna njama. Na kule nasikia maaskari wanaenda kila siku na ashikwi.
The spiritual leadership of the village says the situation has moved beyond a social vice to a humanitarian crisis.
And the community has come, they are up in arms and they are saying they are fed up. They are sick and tired because the police are compromised, they are complicit to this evil and they are bribed, and we are just not able to get any justice from them. The courts are also compromised because the fines are so small, it's like a slap on the wrist, because this is not alcohol, this is poison.
First, with these accusations, the local security apparatus admits that the trade has become sophisticated. The OCS of Koibatek paints a picture of a criminal empire that looks more like a movie script than a rural village trade.
They have also gone a notch higher. Sawa. So mona saizi atile magari wana travel wanabeba na ethanol ni ile gari uwe suspect Prado V8 honestly. Si kama zamani ungejua tu iko kwa pickup kitu kama, but today they have gone a notch higher.
Where the police promise a crackdown and review of the laws, the residents of Poror are no longer interested in promises. They say they are tired of the hymns at the graveside and the yellow tint in the eyes of their children. The residents have now issued a warning. If the flashy cars continue to roll and the poison continues to flow, they will take the law into their own hands. A community at its breaking point, waiting for a government intervention that feels a little too late for the souls already at rest. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Kenyans in need of relief food in 23 counties have urged the government to increase the rations as a way of cushioning them against the biting drought. Over 3,000 residents of Malindi who benefited from relief food on Saturday have also called on the government to implement irrigation programs in the affected areas as a long-term solution to ending perennial dependence on relief support whenever there is drought. Special Programs Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Ruto, who oversaw distribution of relief food in Wajir, says government has in the last 2 months used 6 billion to procure relief food. With more is Gatete Njoroge.
In the scorching sun at Jilore village in Malindi, Kilifi County, elderly persons, breastfeeding mothers, children and young men wait patiently for their turn to receive the much-awaited food rations. The group of over 3,000 people, drawn from 6 subdivisions, most who are peasant farmers, have suffered the wrath of drought. Failure of short rains last year has turned them to beggars, waiting for well-wishers to knock their doors and offer something to eat and feed their children. Among those who turned up was Kahindi Ngombo, a father of 9 and who is living with disability. He received his ration and embarked on another long journey back home. Kahindi lives in Virokobai, more than 10 kilometers from Jilore. Fellow villagers also endured the same fate, just to put food on the table for the next 1 week.
Kutoka ukame wanze kujapata chakula, hata chakula nimepata leo kilo 5 na maharagwe na mchele. Hasa kuangalia katika familia yangu, hiyo nimepata kidogo, nashukuru, lakini kushukuru kwangu hiyo haitoshi kwetu kwa sababu family ni ukame umezidi sana. Ninaomba serikali itusaidie kwa chakula.
Kahindi says the drought situation has not only deprived them food, but has greatly affected their children's education. Most of them are at home due to hunger and lack of school fees. They now want the government to put in place long-term plans to protect them.
Kama kabisa alikuwa mwenyewe najisaidia na kula na mfugo yangu, mfugo imemalizwa kabisa na ukame yote kabisa. Hakuna mfugo wangu wa kunisaidia, ni huo umekufa wote na jiona ukame.
Tunashukuru kwamba siku ya leo hata sisi tumeweza kukumbukwa, na pia kwa ajili ya wanafunzi wetu imekuwa ni tatizo. Manake mara zingine wanakosa kufika madarasani, hawana chakula.
Tuko na mtu hapa ambao una stretch kuanzia Jilore mpaka kule Kakuyuni. Kulikuwa na irrigation project yenye ambayo nilishawahi kumgusia rais on so many occasions, nikimwambia akituwezesha with this irrigation project kutoka hapa Jilore mpaka kule Kakuyuni, that will be a long lasting solution for my people.
Special Programs Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Ruku on Friday in Eldas, Wajir County, flagged off trucks carrying relief food meant to benefit those facing severe food shortage in the county, which is in a crisis stage.
Serikali ya Kenya imetumia shilingi bilioni 6 kutafuta chakula, kuhakikisha kwamba our national strategic reserve strategic food reserve iko na chakula ya kutosha. Jameni, kusije kukapatikana Mkenya yoyote ambaye atapoteza maisha yake juu ya kuwa apati chakula.
The ravaging drought has left 3.3 million Kenyans in dire need of food in arid and semi-arid areas in 23 counties. Government says it has intensified relief operations. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV.
In its latest review, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has reduced the maximum allowable pump prices for the next 30 days. As of midnight, Super Petrol will retail less 4 shillings and 24 cents per litre to sell at 178 shillings and 28 cents in Nairobi. Diesel will retail less 3 shillings and 93 cents per litre to sell at 166 shillings and 54 cents in Nairobi, while kerosene will retail at less 1 shilling. We take a break on Citizen Weekend, but we come back on a lighter note because Mary Mwoki has prepared a special report for us for Valentine's Day. Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. The Nairobi Central Business District was on Saturday painted red as Kenyans marked this year's Valentine's Day. Flower vendors at the city market said business was booming thanks in part to the ban on money bouquets by the central bank, a trend they say was denting their sales marginally. However, many Kenyans say the prevailing economic realities have necessitated them to scale back on their celebrations, and they will instead be focusing on modest, thoughtful gestures to express their love. Mary Mwoki with that report.
A spot check by Citizen TV painted the picture of booming business as vendors, brokers and lovebirds made last-minute efforts to secure just the right bouquet for their loved ones. However, many Kenyans say the prevailing economic realities have necessitated scaled-down celebrations on this auspicious day.
Ni weekend, watu hawajaamuka. Kama ni siku hizi zingine, tena watu ni wa maneno mingi. Kuna watu wananunua maua wanapeleka kwa maofisi. So unaona leo hakuna ofisi.
The prices are quite high. Like this one, this is the cheapest. Yeah, prices are ranging from 1,000 going forward. But me as a Gen Z, as an hustler, I can't afford that much.
Elsewhere, Gender CES Anna Cheptumo joined the Kabarnet School for the Deaf and Blind in a Valentine solidarity walk in Kabarnet to reaffirm the government's commitment to learners living with disabilities.
That others are receiving flowers and they can see. But us, we are showing love by visiting them. Those who cannot see the flowers and they cannot walk.
Girls at the Kenya High School marked this year's Valentine's Day in style. A luncheon organized by the school brought together their parents and guardians, mentors and their teachers in a celebration of a kind. The girls received practical life advice on how to navigate life's many challenges.
It's a season to show your actions of love to each other, and it's really heartwarming to show the actions of love to each other.
So having children here, being introduced to love, to self-love, and even to love each other, gives them a firm foundation so that as they go out there, they are ready to interact with the outside world.
This is a break from the usual learning activities. You know, we have lessons throughout the day, throughout the term. This is my inspiration that every girl at the Kenya High School should feel loved. And this is how we are expressing it.
Tunatoa shukrani kubwa kwa shule kwa ajili ya kuandaa hafla hii. Manake pia wanafunza watoto masuala ya upendo, hata wakimaliza shule wakitoka hapo wakienda kule nje, wataweza kuishi katika hali ya heshima.
In Narok County, a group of elderly women dubbed Narok Grannies came together and led a cleanup exercise of Narok town and urged residents to take care of the environment. The cleanup culminated in a meaningful exchange of gifts and wise counsel with vulnerable young girls in marginalized settings. Miri Mwoki, Citizen TV.
It was good to see my former high school girls enjoy their Valentine's Day. And for those of us who send ourselves flowers to the office, unfortunately, we didn't have an audience today. But hundreds of residents from Karatina town in Mathira sub-county on Saturday held a peaceful procession to condemn the rising cases of killings and defilement of young girls in the area. The march culminated in Rititi village, the scene where 9-year-old Chantel Waruguru was allegedly murdered by her uncle in a brutal incident that has left the community in shock. Crispin Otieno with the details.
Scenes witnessed in Karatina town on Saturday reflected a community united in grief and outrage. Residents, flanked by section of elected leaders and human rights activists, took to the streets demanding swift justice for families whose children have been murdered, while others have been left with lifelong trauma after being defiled. The peaceful march from Karatina town to Rititi village was described as a show of solidarity against gender-based violence. Dressed in white and carrying placards, the protesters called for immediate end of what they term as an alarming surge in gender-based violence, said to be on the rise in Nyeri County.
The office of the Chief Justice, Martha, who is a mother herself, and we know that she is very much against GBV, to ensure that justice is swift, especially in cases of defilement and in cases of defilement or raping children.
The demonstrators also called for tougher and more deterrent punishment against perpetrators of such crimes.
We want an act that says that we must have chemical castration for men who are caught defiling children, young girls. We are for that chemical castration. we are working hard to see that it passes through, because we must do something that will make people fear to look at a small girl like she's an adult.
The procession drew family members who have lost their loved ones in a similar ordeals, their pain still visible.
I have come to join the people of Madeira as an affected mother. I would not like to see any other parent going through what I went through. And I pray for the government to take these cases very fast, like the way my case with my child has gone.
As the procession ended, activists made a direct appeal to the Interior Cabinet Secretary to ensure local administrators uphold the rule of law.
To the Minister of Internal Security in Kenya, Mheshimiwa Murkomen, we are tired of some of your chiefs, because some of your chiefs are the ones who are preventing justice. Mtoto anashikwa cha nguvu, instead of a chief reporting the matter to a police station, anakaa chini na kangaroo court, and that matter is discussed out of court. Now, Mheshimiwa Murkomen, it is either you get those chiefs out of public service, or we will deal with them ourselves as members of the public.
This comes as the police confirmed the arrest of 35-year-old Peter Njuguna, the main suspect in the gruesome killing of Chantel Waruguru. According to Madeira West Sub-County Commander Pixley Musyoki, the suspect's mother also presented herself before police, and both are currently being held at Kikuyu Police Station as investigations continue. Crispino Tieno, Citizen TV.
So painful. We take a break, but on the other side, Franklin Wala has a report on a family whose son reportedly died in Russia. Stay tuned. Tonight, a family in Mugudha, Ruto Sub-County, is appealing to the government to provide factual information on the status of Kenyans allegedly killed in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Family members of Simon Wahome Gititu say they received information from social media that he had been killed in Ukraine. Franklin Wala reports.
Information on the discovery of 2 Kenyan bodies in Ukraine was posted by the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, alleging the two are fighting for Russia. The information was new to Simon Wahome Gititu's family. The tragic news of the death of their son Inawa in Ukraine dampening their spirits.
Ati 2 bodies recovered from Ukraine. Nikapiga duru nikamuuliza, Ukraine, mtoto wangu hayuko Ukraine, ako Russia. Akaniambia hapana, si anaitwa Simon Wahome Gititu. Mimi nilipiga duru nikasikia, sasa ni kama sisikii vizuri.
Gititu's family in Mugudha, Ruiru is dealing with grief. Tents have been set up as relatives and friends stream in to condole with the family. Simon left the country in August 2023 and proceeded to Qatar, where he worked as a security officer. He was there until October last year, when he got the connection through a friend who had left Qatar to Russia, and he was convinced to travel to Russia for a better paying job in the military. The family says they were aware of the move but worried about him. Gititu even called the mother when he arrived in Russia and shared details of his contract as a delivery person within the Russia military.
Mpaka alikuwa anatuonyesha wakicheza pool, wakafurahia huko, akanionyesha ni kuzuri. Na mimi nikaona ni sawa. Kaka first week, second week, I think that week they alienda kusign contract. Na after contract akafurahi, akatuambia sasa amesign kazi, amepata, hata wamemwambia after 6 months atapata citizenship ya kuwa Mrushi.
Matters took a turn when Gititu and others were taken for military training sessions and subsequently armed for a mission in the Russia-Ukraine war. There was little or no communication with his family. His mother got worried.
But the 4th week, hey, akatuambia, Mom, tumepewa uniform ya military na tumepewa mabuduki. Hai, nikamuuliza tena mnaenda kukua mapolisi? Akaniambia wameambiwa kuna hiyo kazi watafanya na uniform za Russian military. Akaanza kutuambia kidogo kidogo, hii kazi ni gumu, tumeanza kupelekwa training.
The last time the family talked to Gititu was on the 16th of November 2025. On the 6th of February this year, the family received news of his passing. Gititu's wife says she still does not know how to convey the news to their 3 young children.
Mimi nashindwa, nitaambia watoto wangu waje, nitawaambia baba yao alienda wapi. Juu hata wanashindaga wakiniambia tupigia baba tuongee na yeye. Sisi tulikuwa tuna depend on him.
The family unsure about whether they will get his body back home.
Kindly help us to retrieve or to repatriate the body of our son so that we can give him a decent send-off. Also help us to get reliable information.
The family still clings to hope that their kin may be alive and safe, despite the news. Yet they want his body back home if the reality of his death is final. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
Even through the screen, you can really feel that family's agony. He commanded thousands of troops in war-torn African nations. He negotiated with rebels and restored peace where guns once ruled. Tonight, we take you to the quiet village of Mukumu in Eldoret Town, home to retired Lieutenant General Ismail Daniel Opande. 21 years after returning to civilian life, the former peace commander lives a quiet life away from the battlefield. But his legacy continues to shape Kenya's military history and Africa's peacekeeping story. Our reporter Walter Nyambaga brings us his journey from the classroom to leading 17,000 troops under the United Nations flag. Take a look.
In this serene environment of Mukumu village on the outskirts of Eldoret Town lives a man whose name was once echoed across the battlefields in Africa. Retired Lieutenant General Ismail Daniel Opande. For 21 years now, he has lived away from the uniform after decades of distinguished service in the Kenyan military. Long before this quiet retirement, General Opande was at the center of some Africa's most complex peace missions. He led operations in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Mozambique, and Nigeria, countries torn apart by civil war.
Where did you fight to be given 1-star general? You're not even worth, being a corporal. I had met him before, the small general. Incidentally, I met him again recently. When I say recently, last year. Hey. I met him in Liberia, in his own country. I went back to Liberia. He was in charge of a certain area as a rebel.
In Sierra Leone, rebels had unleashed terror. The international community needed a steady and experienced commander. General Opande was entrusted with leading more than 17,000 multinational troops under the United Nations mission. Despite language barriers and cultural differences, he brought cohesion and discipline to the force, combining firmness with diplomacy, what some called Karotan tactics, to fiercely confront the rebels.
They're disorganizing the country. They are killing, their own people, but they don't want to bring peace. And I use carrot and sticks. Talk to them and say, look, if peace comes, when we resolve this issue and peace comes to this country, you will also be part and parcel of peace, right? But first of all, you must stop doing what you are doing, right? If I want to disarm your troops, I will disarm them.
His calm demeanor and diplomatic engagement led to successful disarmament and withdrawal of weapons. Slowly, peace was restored.
See, these rebels, they are not people that you see every day and you know who they are, unless you're sharp enough to see that. I think I saw this face somewhere else.
But where did this journey begin? General Opande traces his roots to Omabay County in the Nyanza region. Military school in the UK prepared him for a life of service back home. It started in Nakuru.
I was born in Kendo Bay, Gandia Mission. That's where I was raised. That's where I first went to school. And then Eventually I went to Kakamega, where I did my high school. And then I joined the military. And then that's where I went to the UK and became a military man and came back. And then I grew up in the Kenya Armed Forces up to the time that I retired.
At one point, General Opande was widely viewed as the next in line to become Kenya's Chief of Defense Forces, but in what many described as shifting luck, President Daniel Arap Moi assigned him to lead the Sierra Leone peace mission. Instead, the CDA position went to another senior officer, a move that sparked murmurs within the military circle. Opande sees it differently.
During that time, I was the number 2 to General Tonje as the Vice Chief of General Staff here in Kenya. Our troops went there. Before the peacekeeping picked up, mayhem erupted in Sierra Leone. My boss sent me with a delegation, a very senior delegation of government officials, for us to go and find out what is happening in Sierra Leone. So we went to Sierra Leone.
In the mission, the challenges encountered were to harden him. He recalls.
There are times when I had to tell the United Nations we need more manpower to do the job. Sometimes we got them, sometimes we didn't. A general is a general. No faint-hearted. No. If you have a faint heart, you will find it difficult to achieve. But the generals are always, when you reach, there, everything that needs to be done has to be done.
Today, far from the sound of gunfire and military commands, General Opande lives a quiet life in Mukumo, in a compound that is illustrative of military honors.
Sierra Leone is one of the largest peacekeeping missions that the United Nations did.
A soldier turned diplomat, a commander who chose negotiation over destruction, his legacy remains echoed in Kenya's military history and in the peace restored across parts of Africa. Walter Nyambaga, Citizen TV, Uasin Gishu County.